me give you a brief introduction to the Meyers Brigg, and then we'll take it. And I have an activity. So that's the fun part of the activity. Then there's a not fun activity. And then you're going to hopefully periodically we'll do things like this where we can do a personality test, learn something about ourselves, and then I'm going to ask you to do a reflection. So today's there's an activity that's going to be collected and graded today. So you picked a good day to be here for all those reasons. And and I apologize that I couldn't get this ready in time to give you a heads up about it. So I always say no screens, but when we get to this point, you're going to be welcome to open up your device if you have one with you and open this up. So if you don't have it, you don't need to do it in class today. But what you're going to be looking for is it's in the module chapter, the week 3 module. At the very bottom, I added this. Click here to submit your MBTI assessment reflection. So you're going to write a little, answer some questions that's a reflection of after you took it. So we'll have time to take it, discuss it, and you can I'll have you gathered together and you can kind of discuss these, share your reflections with each other. Eventually, if not now in class, by the end of tomorrow, I want you to write them on the Word version document here and then upload it here. So when you're to work backwards here, when you're all done, you'll click here to submit the document in Word format. And so there's the first item is the reflection document. Just in case, whoops, I clicked the wrong one. But just in case we didn't have this much better version, I had, and you can look at this one too. In fact, if you're like, I love taking tests, you can take another version of it that I do have here that you score yourself in a more tedious way than this clever one does. So here's a Meyers Brigg like inventory that I got from another faculty member, and I don't know where they got it. I don't know what the official name of this one is, but it's like that one. And so here's one that you can take. You don't, this one is not the one we'll use today for this task, unless you wanna. But you'd answer these statements, and then at the end there's like instructions for how you score it. So it's like a tedious, it's not hard to do, but it's tedious to score by hand. And then you'd get your 4 letters. Okay, so if you want to look at that, that's there on the course page. And let me just open up the reflection document real quick, so you can be thinking about what you're going to be doing instead of being surprised. So it's just 3 sort of sets of questions that I want you to reflect on and write something on. So I'm looking for you to, just to be one to maybe spill it onto 2 pages when you're done filling it in. So these size spaces don't necessarily mean that's how much I want you to write. I don't want to say they're just spaces. So anyway, there's the 3 sets of sort of questions I want you to reflect on. And since there's no right or wrong answers to your reflections, but there's a right and wrong way to reflect. And so better. So there's no surprises on like the grading of this. It'll be worth 7 points towards. This goes towards. You got a pool of. I already forgot the syllabus. I want to say it's about 20%. About 5% of that's going to be the attendance. So about 15% of your course grade comes from things like this. That will sometimes be surprises like this. That will, many of them will probably be class activities that you do in class, and if you're not here to do it, you don't do it. So there's that. Okay, so there's a template on here, like a rubric. You don't have to open that today, but before you turn yours in, it would be a good idea to look at this kind of basic sort of how I intend to quickly grade this thing. So it'll be worth 7 points in this way. Okay, so look at that. Not today, not maybe before you submit yours. Okay, so yours will be on that other document. Don't do it on this document. This is just for you to look at. Okay, so that's where we're going. I've been making some additions to the the week modules that I intend to continue doing as we go forward here, filling in some of the details that I know you're starving for, like what are the learning outcomes this week. Okay, I know you're eager to have those, but so I'll put those in each week. Tell you exactly, because as if you don't know what chapters to read. And PowerPoints as I use them are appearing here, and I'll pop up the one I'm about to use now, probably later today, so you can see the PowerPoints. And this, maybe this will be helpful. I hope this will be helpful. So under the module overview, each week I'll post a chapter overview, and this will be a Word document that is lengthy, but not as lengthy as a chapter, summary of the chapter. Okay, so this one goes on for 8 pages. So an 8-page summary of the chapter. So I don't want to encourage you to read this instead, but if it's helpful, and if there's like an emergency, like I didn't have time to read the whole chapter, maybe you can at least read these 8 pages, so that would probably be a pretty good, anyway, I'm just going to, they're there if you want them and need them. And periodically I'll post other stuff, like today I popped in a little quick video about the Meyers Brigg. So, and there's me telling you all the bad news about your test. And then, of course, link. I don't know if you've been using these links. I don't know. I hope you've noticed that I have links to your assignments on MindTap in here, so you can use these links to go to MindTap. So, okay, enough about the course page. Let's talk about the MBTI. Okay. So the very first thing I'm going to do is play you a short, I don't know how many, 5-minute video about the MBTI. So I do want you to do this little, this isn't turned in, this is for your entertainment, okay? So forget what you know about the MBTI if you've taken it. So just pretend you don't know your 4 letters, okay? Or if you want to use your 4 letters, go ahead and use your 4 letters. I guess it doesn't matter. But especially if you've never taken the test, this will be hopefully kind of interesting. So I'm about to explain these 4 dichotomies, these 4 scales that this tool is made up with. And as you listen to the video just right now, I want you to sort of maybe jot, kind of jot this down on a piece of paper. So while I'm talking, go ahead and write these. You're going to be, as you're listening, I'm going to want you to check, like, okay, listening to what this brief explanation of extrovert and introvert is, which one do you think you are? As you hear what sensing and intuitive refer to, decide which one you predict or think you are, and so on, okay? So I want you to sort of predict what your 4 letters will be. Don't just automatically, wait to do it until you watch it. While you're watching this video, you're thinking about, based on these explanations that you hear in the video, go, oh, I think I'd probably be I think I'm intuitive. I think I'm going to be an N. Okay, you get what I'm trying to say here? Just predict what, as you're listening to this, what you think your eventual test will reveal. And then you'll be able to see how you predicted versus how the thing actually, what it tells you about you. Okay, I thought that would be kind of interesting to do. Okay, I'll be very curious to see if the test jives with what you think you know about yourself or if it differs. That should be interesting. Okay? All right, can I go on? Somebody else here, still writing. Okay, let's watch the clip. And that's so sad. These things just never embed. Works on my computer. That's why I put a link in there, just in case it didn't work.
Sometimes it seems like tests dictate your life. Almost every big decision seems to involve a test. Will I get my permit, or will I be taking the bus? Will my scores get me into an Ivy League school, or will I be heading to my safety school? Today, we're going to tell you about a test that'll help far more than good grades or great parallel parking skills. It won't dictate your life, but it'll help you understand yourself and others better. Welcome to Wellcast. Today, we're taking a suggestion from our coworker Danny and our loyal viewer, 8 Miss Greenie 8. We'll be looking at the Meyers Brigg Type Indicator, a personality test that actually started as a way to get women into the workforce. Now, it's taken by 2.5 million American men, women, and children each year. We'll show you how this test can help you become more aware of your personality traits, and then teach you how to use this awareness to get more out of yourself at work and at school. Ready? The Myers-Briggs test was first developed in the 1940s by Catherine Cook Briggs and her daughter-in-law, Isabel Myers, 2 amateur psychologists who were huge fans of Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung and his theory of personality types. When the U.S. entered World War II, many women entered the workforce for the first time. Myers saw a very specific need in the market for a personality test, one that would help women figure out what sort of jobs they were well suited for. Thus, the Myers-Briggs personality test was born. Today's exercise will give you an introduction into the different personality types, so you can start to think about which categories you fall into. Pause and print this well-cast worksheet. Next to each category, tick off the box that you think most applies to you.
And that's what you were.
Step 1. Are you an extrovert or an introvert? Are you a Fluttershy or a Rainbow Dash? This category deals with what stimulates people. Are you the kind of person who gets pumped up in busy social situations? Or are you more fulfilled when reading a book? Extroverts respond to external stimuli, being around large groups of people, for example. Whereas introverts are stimulated internally by reflection, toying around with ideas, and analyzing an interesting train of thought. Step 2. Do you sense or intuit? This category deals with how you gather information and learn. Some people rely mainly on the information at hand. They look for the facts, concrete details, tangible data. They're mainly focused on minutia and want to get to the bottom of things quickly, like Joe Friday. They want the facts, man. Others prefer to look for connections between ideas, rather than nailing down facts. They're more interested in the bigger picture than the nitty-gritty. These fall under the intuition category. Step 3. Would you consider yourself more of a thinker or a feeler? This one is the classic Spock versus Kirk dilemma. How do you make decisions? Do you analyze all the data at hand exhaustively, write out a pros and con list, think logically through a problem? Or do you go with your gut, let your emotions be your compass for a situation? Step 4. Are you perceiving or judging? An easy way to look at this one is to ask yourself, how do you respond to deadlines? If you plan your work out far in advance and manage to get everything done on time, you're probably judging. On the other hand, if you see deadlines as more of a suggestion than a hard and fast rule, and you're constantly changing your work up until the very last second, you're a perceiver. What did you come up with? ESFP? INTJ? All right, it's a bummer, but taking the official tests costs money. But there are several fairly good free knockoffs available on the internet. Try taking one of these tests now and see how your answers stack up. Next week, we're going to show you 8 great methods for improving your productivity based on your personality type. How to accentuate your strengths and combat your weaknesses when it comes to finishing a paper or getting through a difficult week at the office. Let's recap. Today, we went over 4 main personality categories of the Myers-Briggs personality test,
Okay.
an indicator developed in the
don't need to-
40s by amateur psychologists.
You guys don't need a recap. You're not third graders, okay? If that next video that she said sounded interesting for you, then this PowerPoint will be on the course page. Follow the link to play the video, and it's that one right there, the productivity video. So if you want to watch that. Okay. I liked her William Shatner impression. I don't know what you thought of that. Okay. All right, so you got your 4-letter prediction here. Now, the link also has, the PowerPoint also has the links to the 3 other sources that she referred to in that video. So if you want to go try, if you're like, wow, I want to take all the Myers-Briggs-like tests I can, here's 3 more. So you'll have a total of at least 5 you can take after today, okay? All right, so as you heard, this was developed by this mother-daughter team back in the 40s, and they were, following Jung's theory that we talked about last time. So in particular, he had a lot to say about the thinking versus feeling and the intuitive versus, just fell right out of my head, sensing, intuitive versus sensing. They came up with the other scale, but anyway, this is, I talked already a little bit about the pros and cons of this indicator, and how psychology is mixed about how they feel about it. What you have to remember about these is this and any kind of similar personality test, no matter how well established or unestablished it is. And while you're taking it, while you're taking this or any similar test, I'll often hear students say, "I don't, that's not me. That doesn't match me. That can't be right." And I just kind of always think to myself, and I don't say anything smarmy, but I think, well, you're the one that took it. I didn't, someone else didn't take it for you. It's just reporting what you answered. You answered the question, so don't, just immediately decide like, this isn't me. It's like, well, it's not someone else. You answered the questions, okay? So keep that, you interpret these with a big grain of salt, I guess is what I'm saying. Okay, so keep in mind also that this thing is designed to reveal your preferences, not your skills. This isn't a skills test, or it's often used in the workplace to to help assess people and try to often early on when it's still where to plug this person into the workforce or the company or whatever. Trying to put them in, when it's used properly, and it's not always used properly, but when it's used properly, it's about not trying to assess a person's skills or even their abilities, but their preferences, okay? So, and as you listen to that, and as you continue to, the questions that you're going to answer on there, these, you put down your first impression. All of them are going to vary. So one thing to remember is that, when you find up with your 4 letters, that doesn't mean like that's you and that's all you ever are. Just like introverted versus extroverted. There are times when you are both, okay? And so, right now, you're all being introverted. That's expected of you in classroom settings, all right? You go to your friends or other environments, and you're going to, even if you're an introvert, you'll be extroverted. So it's not like you don't have to decide it's not an all or nothing thing when you read each individual questions. Don't be well gosh, sometimes you kind of just like which of these am I more? What's the not the right answer? What's the more likely situation for me? Okay, so keep that in mind as you're filling it out and interpreting your results, okay? So it reveals the preferences that you have, but you have ability for on all of the scales. You have no matter how introverted you are, you have the ability to be extroverted and vice versa, okay? So they're not about skills and abilities, okay? And like I just said, what does it mean to say that you're extroverted? And this, it just means that you answered questions that match more what other extroverts, how they answer, okay? And it doesn't mean you are always extroverted or always introverted. I keep saying it's situational, but it's just, in general, do you have a tendency to be more like one or the other? Okay, so we all have situations that we go through. All right, so remember, it doesn't measure skills and abilities, and it's not measuring, there's no right or wrong answers on this thing. It's not measuring any kind of mental illness or pathology in any way at all, okay? There's nothing wrong with being on one whole, if you're completely extroverted or completely judgy, and those labels, by the way, are they're really unclear. Introvert, extrovert's a real clear one, but judge, you're not. That has a negative connotation that you're judgmental. That always seems to be, used in a negative connotation. These labels, I wish there were better labels because they don't always even clearly match what they sound like they're measuring. Okay, we'll see that in just a moment. All right, sometimes people use the term about the Meyers Brigg. A lot of people are really into it. There's a catchphrase that I always seem to hear called "gifts differing." I don't know why they don't call it differing gifts. They always call it gifts differing. These are preferences, or look at them as gifts. Again, there's no negative connotations. There's no illness or pathology associated with being anything on this scale. So it's not about measuring that. So don't think about it in terms of being, again, you're not judgmental if you wind up with a P. All right. These are gifts. How do you use? All these are abilities and gifts to have. It's a gift to be able to think logically about things. It's a gift to think and recognize the feelings, how feelings are important. Not just to be completely, always making decisions based on pure hard logic as if emotions and feelings don't have any bearing whatsoever. Okay, so it's all these things they're gifts. Okay? Everybody uses their gifts in their own unique ways, and those ways differ from situation to situation. Okay, your type that you wind up with should never be thought of as an excuse for behavior. Like, well, I can't help that I walk all over you. I'm a J. That's what J's do. I'm sorry if you feel offended by my decisions, So it should never be used as an excuse for behavior. Okay, so what are the dichotomies again? Let's kind of try to clarify them. Introversion, extroversion, I'm going to go swiftly through that. I find that most people kind of get that. Again, it's not just shy and reserved and outgoing. It's how you deal with the world. I'll talk about each one of these as we go. Sensing versus intuition, thinking versus feeling, and judging versus perceiving. So again, those last, particularly judging and perceiving, those labels are could be much more clear. Intuition and sensing, I think, I don't know what words to use. I don't have substitutes to suggest, and not that anybody would care and use them, but there's got to be 4 better words than those words that are being used. Okay, so don't get hung up on them. Just understand what they're saying and not what they seem to be saying. Okay, so extroversion, introversion is about how do you get your energy? What energizes you? Like I said in the video, do you get energized by being out there and having experiences and being among people, or do you or is that not? If you're the opposite of that, that's draining for you. You get your energy by having some alone time. And again, even the biggest extroverts need alone time. Nobody is I don't think anybody's so, maybe they're out there, but most people are not so extremely extroverted that they just can't deal at all, never want to be alone or have any reflection time at all. And conversely, even the most introverted person, unless they're just truly a hermit, is ever trying to avoid all other people in all situations and all stimuli and anything, I'm just going to live in my cave with no stimuli. Okay, so there's no extremes here. How do you generally get your energy? Okay, so I think people get introversion, extroversion. Let me move a little more quickly through this so we can get to a test. The sensing intuition scale is about acquiring information. How do you tend to get your information and attend to the world around you? So if you're on the sensing end of that spectrum, the immediate experience, you're taking stimuli at its sort of face value. You hear something and you take it for its literal meaning. If somebody says something to you, you don't tend to think, on the other end of that, you're thinking more about, well, what did they maybe mean by that statement? You hear those words and you say, if they said, you look nice today, you think they mean you look nice today. You don't question do they have a motive in saying that? Are they trying to come on to me? Are they really meaning the opposite? Are they, someone who's more on the sensing end is taking stimuli as for their kind of literal meaning, okay? These people tend to think in more concrete, sort of supposedly realistic ways rather than philosophically, all right? And then intuition is the other side of that. So you think more about possibilities and what maybe subtle, maybe even unintended meanings mean about things that you're experiencing or hearing. You're looking for, you're better you'd like to deal with the big picture and not get caught up with the individual components of it. You're paying attention to the meanings behind things rather than just the things themselves, okay? Does that make sense? Okay. You just shout if you got questions or need a better example as I'm going through this. Okay, so before I go to the next one, let's just share a little scenario here. So now imagine you're the director of an HR department, the company is struggling, and you must lay off 15% of your workforce. This isn't about the last couple of things. This will reflect on the next continuum of what to talk about. So that's you. You got to make these decisions. How are you going to decide who stays and who goes? Think about that for just a second. Like, you got this horrible task. That's your responsibility. 15%. I know. We're all going to go if we don't get rid of 15%. We can't afford it. We'll go out of business, and everyone will lose their job if I don't sacrifice 15% of the workforce. Think of that as maybe 15% of the salaries. Okay? What's your inclination? What are the first things you think of, like solutions to that? And resigning isn't one of them. Like, I'm going to call in sick. All right, so you're going to make this decision. How would you go about doing it? I'm not asking you to share that, just reflect on that. So that pertains to how you make decisions. Are you more on the thinking or the feeling end of things? Was your answer to that just a hard, logical, okay, tough task, 15%, got to get rid of, did you start to think of like just the logical, rational reason, like, okay, let's go by seniority. If you're brand new here, the newer people are the first to go. Or were you thinking logically, like, 15%, let's get rid of some of the heavy, bigger salaries. I can get, more, I can get rid of fewer people if I get rid of the expensive people. So did you think about, logical sorts of solutions similar to that? Or were you thinking about the feelings of the people that are going to be affected by this? Was that like the first thing you thought of? And like, there's going to be some people that just, they're going to be just ruined if I have to let them go. They can't survive. I know. If you start thinking about feelings, how it's going to impact people's feelings. Okay? So thinking, feeling. Now we all think and we all feel. So again, I don't really always like the labels of this. It just is almost too extreme. And speaking of Spock, by the way, Spock on Star Trek is a fun character. This holy logic, this notion, this idea that you could have just logic without any emotion. And of course, that's something Spock struggles with because he's half human, and that's the kind of neat thing about that character in the series. But that for humans, or Vulcans presumably as well, that would be impossible. It's impossible to have thinking without feeling. So this is like a dichotomy that, it's like if you take it literally, is impossible. You can't make a decision that's totally logical. You can't have a logical decision without an emotion, can you? I mean, isn't every decision ultimately involving some emotional component? Can you think of a decision that doesn't? I'll give you a more distinct challenge. Sometimes in my very cynical, pessimistic moments, I'll say, everything you do, and every decision, every activity, everything you do boils down to fear. That's a very pessimistic, cynical thing to say. So I'll challenge you real quickly. Let's not spend much time on this. Can you think of a behavior, a decision that you make that doesn't have fear involved with it somehow, some way? Anyone want to try? You got one?
If I want to decide
Fear of starving, simple. Fear of getting fat. Fear of how this affects your health. You eat this particular thing. Fear, it's all fear. Yeah. What color? Well, fear of rejection from your peers by picking the wrong color. Fear. Yes. What other reason would you paint your nails in the first place? You fear that they don't look attractive enough as they are. Next. How about answering a question in class? Fear of having the professor tell you you're wrong. I mean, just think of like even just the most mundane thought you could imagine having to decide upon. Like, I think you have to get really, really mundane before I'm going to be like, well, okay, like I'm going to take a step. Should I take the step first with my left foot or my right foot? I don't know if that one has to be like well, if I take it with my right foot, I might fall. I don't know. It's like, but any interest? Anyway, I don't want to digress. You guys think about that. That's a fun, cynical thought. Challenge your friends with that one if you really want to look, pessimistic and cynical. Everything we do is about fear. Everybody you like, it's always about fear and fear of rejection and fear of being alone. And okay, so anyway, I don't think you can make logical decisions without an emotional component somehow in there. I mean, ultimately, we have to fear making the wrong decision. If nothing, right there, that's fear of making the wrong decision. Okay. All right. So anyway, thinking, feeling. It's about the process you go through. This doesn't. I find that this doesn't need a whole lot of explanation. I mean, you think things more. You tend to be more logical and deal with the pretty concrete details about weighing the pros and the cons and versus feeling when you're thinking about relative values and weights and how it's going to affect you, how it's going to affect other people. So when you do make decisions, that's one of the things to determine that will determine whether or not you're a T versus F. Do your decisions, do you very normally immediately think of other people when you make decisions? Like, what will people think of? What will my parents, what will my spouse, what will my friends, what will my priest, what will, whoever, what will someone think of me? What will these strangers think of me if I walk in this restaurant and sit down and eat all by myself? What sorts of thoughts go through your mind as you make a decision? Do you find yourself very quickly thinking about how that's going to make others feel and how you'll feel? Maybe how you'll feel is almost secondary. Okay? All right. Okay. Next little question to stew on as we go to the next dichotomy. Think about the last vacation that you went on for an extended amount of time. When did you start packing for? When do you pack for a vacation? How did you go about packing? If you're going away this weekend, are you already packed? Or will it be like, oh my God, my friend's picking me up in 10 minutes, I haven't packed yet. Or my friend's here, I haven't packed yet. Or okay, how do you approach that decision about that kind of thing? So, judging, perceiving. So this dichotomy has the worst labels of all, okay? So, how do you orient towards the outer world and make your decisions about when to do things, okay? So somebody who's, and again, judging, it sounds like it's not judgmental. So these are the planners. So that sounds like, again, I hate this because it makes it sound like a negative thing. Do you have an organizer? Or if you're a J, you're going to have an organizer. You're going to have a really full and complete one with very much detail in it. Or are you flying by the seat of your pants and making up things as you go along? That's the other end of this spectrum here. So if you're on the P side, you tend to be flexible and spontaneous, and deadlines are adaptable, and to be maybe to be rushed at the last minute to finish and things like that. Okay? So when you're all done, you get 4 letters. That winds up being 16 possible squares you land in. And it would take a day or two to like, okay, what is each one of these? So there's websites you can go to that can reveal little blurbs about what each one is. Rachel, does that booklet have a little summary in it? Doesn't it kind of?
Yeah, so once you've scored it and got your type, there's all of them listed, and they'll give like a description of them.
Yeah, so when you're all done, you'll see that. These are, I don't know how, I'll be honest, I grabbed this image and I can't verify that these numbers they may be completely correct or they may be complete bullshit. I honestly don't know. So supposedly these are the percentages in the population that land in these. And so you can see it's not equally distributed. There's certain categories that are quite a bit bigger than some other categories. But again, I don't know, I can't verify the reality of that. Okay, so maybe when we're done, we can have time to talk about like what these 4 letters mean. So I don't want to sit here and try to even summarize. Sometimes you summarize them by 4 quadrants, and sometimes you just do about 2 other. Anyway, so let's do that. Let's get to the test, shall we? Okay.